and welcome to the University of Oregon Sports Product Management Sneaker Speaker Series, our very first edition. You are in for a very special hour. So thank you for joining us today via Zoom and via webcast. We appreciate everybody that's here with us today. I'm Schmidt Devlin. I'm the Executive Director of the University of Oregon Sports Product Management Program. I'm also a 27-year veteran of a company that many of you know named Nike. I think we all share a passion and a dedication to amazing footwear, and I think that's what draws us here today. The SPM program is a really unique program to have at a university. It's a program that you can come to change. You have a passion for product, you have a passion for footwear and apparel. You can change your passion to your profession. When I was at Nike, we used to tell the same joke every day. And that joke was, well, you can't go to school for this. Well, you can now. And that program is the Masters of Science in Sports Product Management at the University of Oregon. You learn the entire product creation process from consumer insight all the way to go to market. So join us. We'd love to have you. Our classes start in September, 18 months for face-to-face and 21 months for our online program. Today we're here to welcome Steve Mullholand. Steve is a legend in this industry. And we have a very special guest that will introduce him. Marlon Williams is a sports product management student who will graduate in 2023. He experiences our program online. So he is coming to us today from New York. I think you're in Brooklyn, if I remember correctly. Marlon's background is a music producer. He brings his passion for product and design to this program. I would say that a lot of people may call themselves sneakerheads. In this program, we sometimes use the term shoe dog. And so I'd say, Marlon, you get that crown today. So you are a sneakerhead and a shoe dog with a real deep focus on the Air Jordan. Marlon, thank you for being here today to introduce Steve and to ask questions.
Wow.
Welcome, Marlon.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Wow, I'm a shoe dog. Very cool. Proud to be a shoe dog today and forever going forward. And thank you so much for your amazing introduction. We're here with somebody that I really consider a strong leader, somebody that's inspired me ever since I was super just getting started into being passionate about footwear. And when I first was able to venture onto the internet and do research and find out what's the best that there is when it comes to finding information on this new passion that I found. And this place I found was Soul Collector. It was a forum. It was these amazing avenues and tools that predated social media. And we're here with the guy that just made that happen, who founded it, who opened the world of enthusiasm for me and many others around the world. So we're here with my main man, Steve Mullholand. Let him know what's up, Steve. Say what's up. Let him know what you got going
on. Well, that's a great introduction. Thank you, everybody. Whoa.
Sorry. Let me take my.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me here and getting this rolling. Let's see. Okay, you're probably back on me.
Wow. Yeah, I'm here. I
knew that photo was going to blow your mind. I didn't mean to show it to you.
Yeah. Whoa. So let's give some context. Let's provide some context.
Oh.
So that's me when I'm like 14, 15, using my username was Bring It Back 45 because I was very much into that time when Jordan came back to the league. And wow. Yeah. So that was vintage Jordans. That was a big meetup that you organized through Soul Collector magazine and in New York City, here in New York. So wow, Wow. Okay.
I meant to bring that one in later, but
Yeah.
that's the thing, is the sneaker culture run so deep, and when you first got into it, there was, a lot of kids, a lot of younger people that are into it, but they didn't have a voice, and they're kind of looked at as like a collector, like maybe a stamp collector, or kind of a geeky thing. And that's one of the reasons I started Soul Collector, was the magazine, was because I wanted to give us a voice. Plus, I was just in Japan and I just saw Boone and a couple other magazines. Retro Kid, the guy that was with me at the very beginning, now a Nike employee. He brought back some magazines that were just like, blew my mind. And I wanted to take that and bring it to America, and that's kind of the entrepreneurial side of starting a business in America. I knew zero about publishing. I didn't understand how anything worked on designing, the magazine, nothing, but I knew we needed one. And the nice thing about, being an entrepreneur, you just, jump in on both feet and make it happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So just for starters, you're one of my mentors, one of my business mentors. And I remember when I had a MySpace back in the day, I might have put a small photo of you as one of my heroes, actually. So I'm here with one of my heroes, but I want to know a little bit about some of your mentors, some of your heroes, who's inspired you to start your journey as an entrepreneur and ultimately as a baron and businessman.
All right. Well, so it all started years ago, and this is my mom obviously on the left, and my grandpa. When I went to entrepreneurship class at Ball State, the very first day, they asked, "Is entrepreneurship hereditary or is it learned?" And that's a tough question to some, but to me, it's like it's learned. Like, you can't be born with it. You might be born with a certain type of brain that maybe your memory's better or something like that, but it doesn't make you an entrepreneur. But I narrowed it down when I felt like I started to understand business. And I was born and raised in Indiana, but every summer I went down to Key Largo, Florida, and that's where my grandparents lived. So it was like night and day, man. It was like nothing like Indiana. So I was like 6 years old. And my grandpa says, "Hey, Stevie, let's plant some coconuts." It's like, get this and get that. It's like, I didn't ask questions. Whatever he said I did. So we planted like 20 some coconuts. And a week before I left, he's like, "Okay, let's go down to the shopping center. We're going to sell them." Like, "What do you mean sell them?" It's like, "Yeah, we're going to sell them." So we went down there. I had my son kissed. He probably had a 6-pack of beer, and we sold all of them for $5 each. And it wasn't a lesson, like it wasn't in a book or anything, but it was something I was like, wow, that's how you convert this work into this money. So I loved it. And he's always been an entrepreneur, always swinging for the fences. And I really garnered a lot of creativity from him, and definitely not being scared. He was a World War II vet, so he wasn't scared of anything. And then my mom, growing up, she helped me create my first business. So I started when I was 13 years old, is in the software world. And, she stepped me all through it. I figured out how to create all that. And we just started running with it. And my mom was a serial entrepreneur. When I was at the house, she actually started, it's kind of funny. She started one of the first digital magazines. It was on 5 1/4 inch diskette, and it was for the Apple, and it's called Discazine. And so I helped every which way I could. It was a family run thing. And then she got another business and another business. And, I would just thought my mom could do anything. It's amazing. I got amazing grandpa, amazing mom. And so that really is what inspired me. And it was really my mentorship. But, more than that it's like, if you expand your shell, like when you're in meetings and you see some boss, somebody that is like really inspiring, and it could be anybody, you take from that. You always got to be studying. You always have to be learning, because it's an evolving thing. What worked last year is not going to work this year. It might work 20 years from now, but it's not going to work, in the near future. So you just always got to be evolving. So, people like, Larry Miller, the president of Jordan Brand, Tinker, Howard White. I mean, there's so many people that just you hang around, and if you don't get better as a person, as a business person, you're doing something wrong.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, that rings really well and really warmly. It's great to hear a lot about the friends and family influence coming from mom, coming from grandpa, and how ultimately mom helped you start some of your first business, even as you mentioned yourself. So you mentioned software, you mentioned early computer innovations and technology, and what can you tell us a little bit about some of your before starting Soul Collector, or even as creating a forum, or like did you create the Soul Collector forum yourself or code it, or like how did that work? Do you have experience with putting together websites and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, totally. When we had this computer back in the day, we had this Apple II Plus. It was like $5,000 for that computer back then, and not many people had them. So, we worked with it. It was just part of it was like 7th grade. We had this computer, and it was like it just was normal. I mean, we didn't have smartphones. Obviously, we didn't have any of that stuff. So, having that technology background allowed me to do anything. Like I was never scared of technology, and when I got into doing the forum, actually the very first version of the forum was on something called Easy Boards, but you were being controlled by somebody else. You had ads, you had to deal with all that. And you couldn't do a lot of cool stuff. So I actually downloaded some software called PHPBB. It's a bulletin board software. It was really cool. Put it on there and started customizing it, and I've quickly learned that I'm not a crazy detailed person. I'd forget one comma and the whole thing would crash, so I was like, oh no. So, but anyway, but that technology went through all the way to like the iPad issue that we did. And we did quite a few iPad issues, and you take like cool things that you learned from like movies, like Nick and I, one of a really instrumental employee at Soul Collector, we did this. We made up issue and took it into Nike and say, hey, this is what we're looking to do. And we were doing like Harry Potter, where we were in this photo, but we're actually moving. It's like, did that guy just move? And it looked really, really cool. So tech has always been a big thing, and it's made Soul Collector possible.
Absolutely. Well, two things. You mentioned Nick. Was that Nick DePaula?
Yeah. Yep. Nick DePaula.
Cool. Yeah, that's one of your. Can we call him an apprentice of some sort, or he's very much someone that's been able to learn under you and learn under Soul Collector, and is now representing and holding the torch at ESPN. Is that correct? Is that what he's doing?
Yeah, he's in beast mode. Plus, there's no doubt about it. Nick is the perfect example of somebody coming from Ducks, coming from there. He actually was writing stories while he was still attending a university. And that did two things. One, it showed him, what we were about, and then I could understand what he was about. And he did our wear testing. That's when Professor K bowed out. He actually got hired by Nike, and he took over that. And Nick is so passionate about so many things, but that's the kind of employees you want. Like every single one of our employees was amazingly passionate about what they were doing. And that made those 3 a.m. nights so much easier, working night after night, trying to get, a project done, and then being able to wake up and still be in the office the next morning to do the next one.
Absolutely. So kind of streaming things along a little bit forward, when can you tell us a little bit about how, because you mentioned a little bit earlier about Soul Collector and how it began, and can you talk to us a little bit about some of your reasons for starting Soul Collector, and ultimately, what were some of your goals starting it out initially, and if you have any successes and things along that line you'd like to share with us?
Well, good deal. Well, here comes this picture again. now at the appropriate time. So, I thought, so we had the forum on ISS, and it was growing. We were all tight. Like we were talking, we're playing Call of Duty at night. I mean, it was a really cool setup, and I just enjoyed everybody. But I felt like the kids weren't getting a fair shake. Like even big sneaker companies were looking down on the sneakerhead, kind of thinking they're just a flash in a pan or kind of a pain, instead of looking at them as fashion forward people, as people that understood what the street was wearing, because these kids were the street. They're the hangers in New York City. I mean, the shoes were the cars. They didn't have cars. They had freaking amazing shoes. So I made it a point to go and photograph all the people that I could, and you're a part of them, and you're in this photo here. There's I mean, that one photo shoot I did in Queens, it was absolutely amazing. It's like I had a meeting at Foot Locker. I come down after that to photograph everybody at that big graffiti building in Queens. I turn a corner and there's like 60 kids standing there, and I'm thinking there's going to be like 10 or 20. But that's the power of ISS, of the forum, because that the day before, I just put out a post and I said, I will be in Queens taking photos if you want to be in the next issue of the magazine. And it was, well, we called it the brick shoot because it was cold. It was really cold, but we got a lot of cool stuff. And then like this picture here, just showcasing, even when we were shooting like product shots, like we didn't just get the shoes and then take a nice picture of them. Of course, we had to do that a lot because they weren't our sizes always, but I would take them to the court, and Kevin Roberts, the guy that taught me how to really shoot photos well, people, objects, everything. So we'd come in and say, okay, let's get a generator. Let's go to the local school. Let's go at night, and just shoot until we get kicked out. So that's really the core was ISS wanted the magazine. They said, we'd love to have a magazine. And I wanted to represent the people that I saw out there, that I talked to, that I'm friends of. I bought, they bought shoes from me. I bought collections from them. It was a connection that is like, you know what, this is going to cost a lot of money to create this magazine, because you can't print just 10. You got to print 8,000. So, I went for it, and no ads in the magazine, nothing, just printed it. And then I went to all the places and showed them, this is my version of a sneaker magazine. Because if you say to somebody, hey, I'm going to create a sneaker magazine, you're letting them think what you're going to do, which I guarantee is going to be lame. When I brought that and I put it down, that nice paper, the photos, the content, the writing, people understood.
Absolutely. That takes us to issue number 1, right? Or even if it's relatively a prototype, but can you tell us about the Citrus 11 issue with the young lady on top, or the young lady in the front, and how that was a catalyst going forward for all things, and how the struggles you may have had through that as an entrepreneur?
That issue number 1 had a lot of struggles. One, we made a spelling mistake on the cover, which that's but there's only 3 of us, man. We couldn't, but we learned, So when I first got the magazine in my hand, I'm disappointed. I'm not like, oh my God, we created something. I'm like, I'm just seeing all the mistakes. I'm not jacked up at all. I'm the opposite. But it was minimal, I learned that there's multiple blacks. We printed, we had this photo that was black, and then I put a background that was black. It was 2 different shades. It was like black and gray. It's like, you got to be kidding me. So it was 100% a learning issue. There was 2 kind of funny things that happened, and it, again, learning all the time. So I'm in New York City, and we're in a cab, and I see a dude walk by with the overcoat, and he has issue number 1 in the overcoat. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm pointing it over to my buddies, and it was like, that was absolutely crazy because it just came out. But a big mistake I made that day is Retro Kid and a friend of mine and myself, we go to Adidas. We go to Foot Locker, and then we go to Adidas, and we're wondering why everybody's looking at us. Like, then it's like, man, they can't know us already. Nobody knows us yet. Well, we didn't even get into an office. The lady comes out, and she just talks to us in the lobby. I show her what we're doing. She didn't like the cover so much and she didn't like the direction. But then the truth came out. She goes, you guys do know this is Adidas and all you are wearing vintage Nikes. And I was like, oh, is that a problem? It was like, I mean, of course it's basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
But we had to learn that lesson the hard way. After that, every single place we went to, I don't care if it's Saucony, we're wearing Sauconys because nobody's wearing dress shoes, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that kind of leads me a little bit to maybe how it might have been as a centerpiece or as a publication, and dealing with some of these businesses of business to business or things along those lines. Before we get too far into some of those into that wormhole, for lack of a better term, I was curious to know if there are any, let's say, secret projects or things along those lines that maybe you granted access to based off of working with Soul Collector, or based off of debuting things with your company and your magazine.
Boy, you're throwing a hand grenade on the table.
Is that what that is?
Oh boy, there's a lot of things that I've really never said publicly about what went on and how we got access. And a lot of people we work with have moved on. This is 15 years ago. Well, it's 2004, really. 2004, 5, 6 is when we really started working pretty heavily with Nike. Well, I'll bring up this photo here. So I get a call from Tinker and he says, I've got 700 pairs of shoes I'd like you to shoot. And Tinker would know when I was in Portland or when I was back in Key Largo. So he wouldn't just call me randomly just to say, hey, take these photos, because Nick or somebody else that lived in Portland can do that. But I knew this was special. So we had no idea. We walk into this this warehouse that was off campus. Only a few people knew that this building was even there, and what was inside it. It was top secret. And this is what it was. So I go in there.
Wow.
And there's all these Nike Air Mags. Now I knew this, we knew this project was happening in discussions with Tinker and a few other people. I mean, we were involved in it, and it definitely no design or anything like that, but people were bouncing questions off of us and stuff. And it was really, really, it just blew my mind. So I said, well, we need to have 2 days with it. First, I got to go in there and see what I'm dealing with. Like, what lights do I need? All of that. And then the second one is how much space and what are we going to do? I have no idea. All I know is there's 700 pairs of shoes. So as you can see, what we did was we had our gloves on, and we laid every single shoe out that was there. We turned them all on, and then we just shot for like a couple hours. And Tiffany Beers was there, and then Nick and I, and it was just epic. I mean, it's kind of a pinnacle shoe, right? It's one of the most expensive shoes out there, and it has such a great story. But that's a trust factor too, is for them to trust us, because they didn't want this information out. And of course, we could have blew up the internet, releasing these things early. But we had one mistake early on where we leaked one image. We had an employee leak one image, and then I get a call from Nike, the communications person. He said, don't you want to save that for the magazine? Why am I giving you exclusives and you're just going to have it out there on the internet for like eFame? So I made a rule. Anybody that does that again is fired. It never happened again. I mean, we had security like you would not believe on everything we did. Never shared it with anybody. So projects like this started to happen, and people, they allow us in. We'd start working on really cool projects. So, I mean, that's one. We every single Jordan during Soul Collector, we had wear test samples. We had sometimes we could actually wear test them. Actually, Nick could wear them and ball in them. we had access to everything, way, 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 way early. And again, guaranteed we didn't leak anything. Like it stayed within Soul Collector. And that's pretty cool stuff. I mean, that if you're a sneakerhead, for you to not know about something because almost everything's online, for you to be able to live in this world. And it was so difficult because we did so many cool things, but we couldn't talk to anybody about it, just our core group. So I think that's why we became such good friends, because we were really the only people we could talk about this stuff with.
Right, absolutely. Which kind of brings me to this incredible email I got earlier today from a friend of yours, a really good friend of yours, Mr. Tinker Hatfield, and he had a question for you, and I'm really curious to know what your answer is going to be. So let's see. If I go over this, it says, ask Steve about the Jordan shoe I drew on for him. So did he draw on a pair of Jordans for you? Something like that?
And actually, I've got quite a few shoes sitting here, and that so happens to be one. So this is one that he drew on, and it actually has it has my sailboat at the top here, and it's actually the real sailboat. It's not. It's like that's the model of the sailboat that I've got. It's got a bunch of cool details, but the coolest thing he put on there, and the thing is, when you're friends, but Tinker and I are friends, and you never sit there and say, you're so awesome. You work together, you hang out, you go, this was a great project, or this was a great, event. You never sit there and really compliment each other. So when he did that, because I thought he actually gave it to me at a huge party we threw at the Ace Hotel in Portland. And we had the COO of Nike there, of course, Tinker, COO being Eric Sprunk at the time, Tim Hershey. I mean, all these designers that we knew, Tiffany Beers. It was Gentry Humphrey. I mean, it was such a cool crowd that never really would hang out like that. And they all came for this event. And Mark Smith gave me a really cool pair of shoes he lasered. And then here comes Tinker. And he goes, it'd been easy for me to just make a cool colorway, which of course I would have absolutely demolished by now. So I actually drew a story on here, and this right here is part of what it says. And it's pretty cool. I mean, it's so humbling when you have somebody like Tinker, and it goes, to Steve from Tinker, thanks for your support of our art and science. We wouldn't be as cool without you. Now, come on. This is from a cool guy. I mean, the epitome of cool to me is Tinker. And yeah, that blew me away. And of course, he had to throw in a few other jokes during that time, especially the speech I gave that night, but it's all good.
Absolutely. Wow. It really means a lot to see how that connection is really valued, from a designer to someone that allows for the story to be told. And I mean, Tinker himself wrote highly about you. He said he's genuinely a nice and affable guy. And he also says he's largely responsible for being the first to really highlight sneaker design and collecting. I think that's really important, because today, design has a big deal. We look at guys like Virgil, rest in peace, and kind of like and Kanye West, and just the way that the designer has now, more or less earned the forefront. But Tinker Hatfield himself is saying, if it wasn't for you, that probably wouldn't be the case. What was your interest? Yeah, what was your interest in creating that need to tell the story in the design aspect? And just...
Yeah, so the very first meeting that we had with Tinker, it was with the Jordan 20. And that was a great shoe because there's so many stories. It had all those icons on the strap. It had all these really cool stories from MJ, things that really meant a lot to him. So during this meeting, it was so cool because it wasn't just Tinker that was in the room. He brought everybody else, all the other designers. And I was talking to Tinker, and he said, it's not just me. there's somebody that's in the material side. There's somebody that's in, the engineering side. There's a football team of people around one shoe. Of course, there's a pinnacle designer for all of them. I just remember saying, we need to tell these stories like that. I knew from the Asian market that they really wanted to understand the technology behind everything. And I wanted to showcase that. I mean, I just wanted to showcase it. So we end up getting into all kinds of like when we do a story, as you've seen the pictures, we have every little piece of the shoe. We've got, every piece from the airbag to cross sections to different materials. It's really, really cool how the access we had to that. So yeah. And then here's another thing I learned about Tinker. He's a hell of a fun guy. Like he's just, he was wrestling with Mark Schmidt and just had this big smile, and, he was approachable, and that meant a lot. It really did. And to actually talk a little more about just one other piece that I have of these photos. I'm sorry, I'm looking down. I've got all my photos right here. But when you're talking about behind the scenes, projects. So I get a call and from somebody that said, we would like for you to shoot these shoes. Of course, as a friend, we'd like you to come down, shoot these shoes. You can't say where you got them. No problem. Well, this is what was happening. So we go in there and are shown the Yeezy. We knew that they were being developed, but we didn't see all the samples yet. And we came, and this is just on a table, right? Just a coffee table. Like this is not in a photo, some photo studio. And one of them actually had glow in the dark soles. The midsole, it was just ultra sick. So, I mean, it was just so cool, but that was the difference between a normal media outlet and what Soul Collector did. And it worked to our advantage and our disadvantage. The advantage was we got access to stuff like this. We didn't get paid for this. We're helping a friend out. Of course, it was great for us. It was great for us in a magazine and all that. But, we had bills to pay. And what I learned, and actually this is Sandy Bodecker, who was the head of Nike Skate when I worked with him. Rest in peace, Sandy. He said that, this has a value. We may not give you ads, or we may not do these other projects like other people, but this has a value to it. And we did some great stuff. I mean, like even going and photographing Paul Rodriguez. So we go down to P Rod's house and we have full reign of it. We actually go underneath the fence, crawl underneath the fence to this abandoned factory that he's going to just jam on. And it was really, really cool to be part of that. So anyway, that's to back up one more. I got a bunch of stories like that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm glad the shot didn't catch my reaction, because those easy samples. Oh my goodness. Let's make sure everybody had a chance to see that. Let that resonate a bit. Wow. So you mentioned having some exclusive moments and access to product early, and being able to be trusted to debut that and to be that outlet and voice, that trusted voice. What can you tell us about the relationship you were able to develop with Nike Town and Soul Collector, and how I see you have a pair of Dunks behind you that are really, really nice. And if you can tell us a little bit.
And this.
So, I'm gonna stop talking. Tell us
So when you're in business and you're working with people, you want to build trust. You want to always follow through with whatever anybody asks of you. So if you commit to something, you got to follow through. It's got to be professional. There was a couple of times where we lost like 10 grand working with Nike on a project, but it was like, I'm not going to ask for 10 grand. It's like we're working on this huge project. There's overages. It's like, they knew that it was going to cost us money. and it all just worked out. And you don't want to have problems. You don't want to be nitpicking and things of that nature. So the sneaker events were going to happen with or without Nike, but with Nike, it was light years ahead of what it could have been. So I was looking for a venue, a safe venue for the sneakerheads to be able to come in and have a sneaker competition. You know, that's back when we were doing we brought X amount of sneakers for each table. They could be custom, they could be vintage. I mean, we had all these different categories, and Retro Kid and I would go out and we would rate them all, which was extremely difficult to do, especially towards the end, because it's like, how is a 1-on-1 better than this 1-on-1? I mean, it was absolutely insane. But how that started was sitting down in Mia Hamm with one of my friends. His name's Lee. We're sitting there, and he invited another friend to come over and sit. And she did, and we were just talking. I said, "Hey, I've got some sneaker events I'm going to do. You know, and we're just looking around. For sure, I didn't even think anything about doing them at Nike Town." She goes, "Hey, do it at our stores." I said, "That sounds amazing." And so we sat down and we just worked out some details. All of a sudden, we're making shoes for the event in New York City. The kitchen is making all kinds of insane one-on-ones for charity auctions, and now we're just like we're off and running. And this is the last shoe that we did. And the thing about this shoe is this actually tells a story about a sneakerhead going around and looking for their holy grail. So, and this is all laser 3M. They only did this once for these shoes. Unfortunately, it's just too difficult to do, and they just didn't do it again. But that was another thing of bringing the community together. You know, we didn't make money off of these events. We lost money. You know, we had to have employees go up there. We had the stress of dealing with the whole thing, and it was stressful judging the whole thing. You know, you knew you're going to disappoint people, but it just worked out so well. I mean, it was an epic time in the sneaker community because you had a reason to travel, to get together, to see people that you only know their names on a forum, and friendships from those competitions are friends today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can you show us that dunk one more time again, please?
Yes. So this is the Vegas dunk. And then for all the competitors that came, Nike actually made this one, and it's super high quality leather. They did a great job on it. It's only made for that event or for the competitors. And there was a note in there saying, thank you. So even the people that didn't win, everybody got one of those. And that just shows you how connected Nike was. Like, it was organic. It was the right thing to do. Nobody asked them to do it. And, you know, that was the difference between working with Nike and Jordan Brand and working with other brands. They just didn't have the same mentality.
Right, absolutely. Wow. So that brings me to trying to understand a little bit more about how the Soul Collector and ISS community may have played a role in consumer insights, and I guess how did the Soul Collector community and ISS community help you just engage with the consumer and understanding what some of the needs are for the brand and things like that?
Well, you know, these kids here, I mean, they're just amazing. Like it's every single person there is there because they want to be there, because they want to be part of this living thing. And it's not just the forum, and it's not just the magazine, it's everything. And when you're part of the culture like we were, and you start to figure out what direction you want to go to, talking to the consumer and being very connected to consumer and being a consumer. You know, I was a consumer as well. I spent way too much money on kicks. You end up with a direction that's totally different. So, you know, another really cool thing that Nike did was they created this forum shoe. There's the shoe that they created for the admins on the forum, and it had the Soul Collector logo on it. It had The number of members, I think we're at 200,000 at that point. And it was just mad cool all the way around. It was just like really, really, really neat. And it gave back to that community because all those admins were doing it for free, and one of the things about the shoes, I said, if any of you don't want the shoe, tell me. I'm not going to send it to you because you cannot put this on eBay. This is Nike gifting us something because they think we like it, and you don't want to ruin that by trying to flip it for a couple grand. And everybody's pretty good, except for I think one person might have sold one at some point in time. Now I'm sure they're up there, but the kids were into it. I was stoked.
Absolutely, I could recognize a good amount of folks in that photo. Let's see, I remember Shu and Perry from Image out in Flushing, Queens. Let's see, there's Glenn. Shouts to Glenn, who was also an alumni of the SPM program. Glenn Kugelman, he's a great guy, and his brother, Big Noodles from the website. Let's see, I remember Skrill's on there. Air Adam, shouts to Air Adam. Shouts to longtime friend Daniel on there. D-Boy. Yeah. I'm gonna stop talking so that we can see some of these photos. So,
well, so that blue shoe in the middle between the Kobe's and the Supreme Dunks, that's the shoe that they made for us. So,
is that the Yankee colorway? Was that kind of like?
Well, it's a color that we kind of made that Nick really made. It was like we were really into neon and like the these shoes here, the penny. Yeah. We were just huge into this, so we wanted a new color. But this is another story. I mean, this is the first player shoe that we actually had the Soul Collector logo, and it has a bunch of stuff inside. And this colorway was the first pair of shoes that I ever wore that I had like a 10-foot zone around me that if anybody was carrying like an open water or a Coke or whatever out, my guard was up. Like, what am I going to do? How far am I going to jump? Because, I think they made like 6 pairs of these. Like, I mean, it is so freaking limited. And that was such a cool thing. Like we did tons of collaborations. I would almost be willing to bet we did more collaborations with Nike than anybody. Because we had all the event shoes. We had all the one-on-one shoes. We had all the shoes that we were able to sell to the public. And then we had tons of shoes that we didn't even sell to the public. And we even had shoes that were at sale at Foot Locker. So we did some incredible stuff, but it started off with the events and the shoes that we had at the events. And then we just started doing all these cool collaborations. We always had a great story behind them. Like Nick and Zach was one of our other employees. We would just sit there and brainstorm. And between Nick and Zach, they had such great ideas on the story that should be behind it, because the stories mean everything, right? You have a cool colorway, but if there's no story behind it, it's limited.
Absolutely, it's empowering. It brings it home. It makes it personable, and it allows for the consumer to see itself almost as a muse. So that's let's see. Who are some of your favorite subjects, or what are some of your favorite subjects to photograph?
Oh man, I've got a bunch. So I'm just gonna roll right through some of these. So we're at the Jordan 20 shoot, and we're gonna interview Spike Lee. So he was on set, and he's reading from this big book and for the commercial. And then when he's done, he sat down, and he hung out with Anthony and I. So I'm talking with Spike. He's mad cool, and he invited us to come back to his house. So we go over to his townhouse in Brooklyn. I meet his wife, his kids. This guy was a kid about these shoes. Like he was so excited to show his collection, but also to show, which was, let me get back to this photo. That I don't know if you can read it or not, but it says, "Sorry, Spike." So every time MJ came there and just demolished his team, he would write on it and say the score and say something funny on there. But he loved that stuff. And then you've got like, this is legit. I mean, you've got D Wade with his MVP trophy between his legs and original Jordan 6. And look at that smile. That is not a, oh, what is this? That is a, I remember this. This was something special to me when I was a kid. And I knew that was his favorite shoe from an interview from a long time ago. And luckily I had a pair that I could bring. So that was mad cool. I mean, things like this were going in with P-Rod and just enjoying all the fun stuff of that. I was able to go to Ludacris's house. I was the first person to shoot anything at his house. So, and it was just myself. I just went in there, and it's kind of tough to do a photo shoot by yourself because you got to control everything, especially we're talking Ludacris. I mean, it's not like this is some small dude. And it was just absolutely amazing. And he was really into it. It was really cool. But then also getting down to kicks, like the shoes when you think about it, there's only so many angles to shoot the shoes with. So we had to keep pushing it. We had to keep pushing the lighting, we would go to like plastic stores or just weird hardware stores that had different things that, like, we got this one screen that's underneath fluorescent lights, and then we started banging the light through it, and it just would go right around the shoe in a really cool way. So we're always thinking, like, we never slept on this. Like, they're going to give us a shoe, whoever it was. It didn't matter who it was. We're going to make it look the best we can, because we want to give that designer, our best effort, because that's what they did. And it was just a lot of fun. I mean, I got 1,000,001 shots. I mean, we hung out with Tinker so many times, and he was always animated. He always had, great things to say about the design. And, when we bring the shoes, it's really easy for him to remember a lot of stuff on the shoes. And we just had an absolute blast. And then going into to the archives. So that's another kind of cool story. So we were actually able to go to the archives. Now this is how I knew Soul Collector made it. So we're walking into the archives, and by the way, you cannot go into the archives. It doesn't matter. You're a Nike employee. It's like, you have to be invited to go in there. It's not a normal thing. So we're walking into the archives. It's this big warehouse. And I saw these pictures, these framed pictures. And I'm looking at them, I was like, man, I remember that shoe. Yeah, it's like I shot one just like it. Yo, that's another one I shot. And I'm looking, I was like, they framed the photos I took in the magazine. They put it in frames. And I asked the person, and she goes, not only are your pictures up on this wall, your magazine, every single issue is in the archives. You will be with Nike forever. And, when you're in it, you don't really understand how big things are. You're trying to stay alive. You're trying to do your thing. You don't sit there and go, hey, man, we're so successful now. This is awesome. But when she said that, it hit me that this is bigger than really us. What's bigger than me and my employees. This is the whole community just got into Nike archives, and she was proud of that fact. And it was so cool. It was just so cool.
Oh my. Wait, so let me get that straight. They have every single Soul Collector magazine in the Nike archive.
They got every single, and they've got box out there. Like, they had a table of shoes that just came in that were all original from the 70s. And I was like, oh yeah, we're going through these, we got to make sure everything's right, before we preserve them. And, we had to wear gloves the whole time. They had motorcycles in there. That was part of some stuff. In the building was huge. It was huge. And that's where so all these drawings and everything, they're all inside there. So if like you wanted back in the day, I don't think you can do this anymore, but they literally gave us every single Jordan 4 sketch that Tinker did. And it was like 100 pages in there, and it was everything. It was like two Sandy, like he would draw, and he might be in Paris, France, and then he'd fax it. and it would say, Mark Parker, Sandy Bodecker, and the team in Taiwan. And it was really cool to see that, because that's history. I mean, that's real history right there.
Absolutely. And as an archivist and somebody that loves history, that's pinnacle moments. You got it. It looks like we have a question from the YouTube comments, and this is from Zane Posen. I hope I'm saying that right. How do you develop a structured editorial calendar or cadence when many things are leaked, delayed, shifted, or images and info are scarce for the products?
So that's by far the hardest part. Like when we started the magazine, the print industry was actually starting to go down. The internet was becoming, that's where you went to get the news. That's where you went to read stories, because they're all alive. They're now. So it was difficult at the beginning to get these kinds of stories. So the editorial cadence came down to Jordan Brand. And that's another long story that's kind of awesome. But Jordan Brand bought out a half issue for Carmelo Anthony and a full issue for the game shoe. And so we knew those two issues were hitting in November and then in January, February for the All-Star game. And then after that, we had, we worked with other people at Nike and some other brands, New Balance, Adidas, Reebok, to sprinkle content in. But part of what we wanted to do when we went to meet these companies, we wanted to make sure is like, okay, so the shoe leaked, so that the shoe, the whatever game shoe leaked. And so we're not going to have that image to blow everybody's mind. But what we are going to have are all the samples, all the colorways, the actual designers talking to us about why they did this and why they didn't do that. And that is, as the old saying is, that's the rest of the story. That's the thing you can't get on a leaked image. But we were lucky. Like a lot of times, like I remember, so we had Tracy McGrady on the cover, and he was going to sport his McGrady's, but red on one foot and blue on the other. And we were actually able to get on cold pizza when that was a thing. And we actually showed his shoes the day before. This is what he's going to be wearing. And of course, that's not like some crazy Jordan 5 PE or something, but it was really cool for us. And it showed that, hey, we have these connections and we're able to do these things.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the business and entrepreneurial side of Soul Collector, and how and why did Soul Collector help you evolve as an entrepreneur and business owner?
Yeah, Soul Collector, I think, was my 9th business. Not all of them successful. One of them I did sell to the actual inventor of voicemail, if you can believe that. I mean, this guy was like 100% ridiculous, like totally next level money. But really cool guy. His name's Scott A. Jones. And, so I had this business background, and really what Soul Collector forced me to do was be extremely dynamic. So we had this forum. We didn't even really have a website yet, but we had this forum, and then we evolved into this magazine, and then we evolved into a really good website that had a blog and a lot of good information. We had the marketplace that we really, really pushed to a whole nother level. At one point in time, we had way more shoes on our marketplace than eBay did for years. And then we started doing the iPad issues. We started doing apps for the iPhone. One of them was connected with a great project with Nike in the training section. And then we actually did a great pair of Soul Collector shoes, one that a lot of people like, the Soul Collector trainers. But all those things were really put together by, going and swinging for the fences. Like you got to keep saying, we're doing something right. We got into video. I remember that we went in, we went to a feature. We had 2 cameras set up and mics and all this stuff, and we're ready to shoot them. And I think it was the LeBron PE. I forget which one it was, but we're sitting there and we're getting everything set up, and he looks at me, he's like, how do you know all this stuff's going to work? And I looked at him, I was like, I don't know. This is the first time we're doing it. He's like, you gotta be kidding me. He's like, no, it's going to be badass, but this is the first time. And the video turned out amazing. Like, it was totally epic. But again, pushing the envelope, pushing the envelope, pushing the envelope. What was in your business plan last year may not be accurate today.
Absolutely. Great to hear that. If there's any questions from anyone here in the Zoom call, please feel free to chime in. And I'm going to ask this last question before I open it up to anyone that wants to ask any questions. Do you share a purpose with SPM, with the SPM community, and what are the benefits for a program like UOSPM today? So I'll repeat that. So do you share a purpose with SPM, and what are the benefits of a program like UOSPM today?
Well, like this picture here. So this was actually a birthday gift years back. This is somebody from Nike, and very few people would understand this outside of designers and people from the SPM program. So this is a tech pack. So this is 4 shoes that are all tech pack. For people who don't know, that means this is the pack that's given to the line. It's not stitched together. There's no glue, nothing. And he was able to make this incredible artwork, and it's like 6 foot wide. I mean, it's like way next level. Thanks, Crumpy. Yeah, he did a heck of a job on it. Totally surprised me. But what I learned from working with Nike and other manufacturers as well, but specifically Nike, is that there is this process that has to happen. Like, there's certain things you can't swing for the fences on. You have to do the blocking and tackling. You have to do these things that are, these molds, these lasts, you have to go through the process. You have to make sure that the cushioning is right and comfortable, and the support's there. There's so much to it. And if I could have went through a course like this before I started doing all this, I would have been able to go so much deeper, so much quicker. Luckily, we got, almost PhD level of a course by working directly with Nike. One of the big compliments we got is one of the shoes Nick reviewed. He said, well, it would have been better, if it had this 4-foot cushioning. Then the next year we come back, it has 4-foot cushioning, and he calls it out and says, because of what you said, we changed it. So the more knowledge you have about how things work and the beauty of the science, the better your career is going to be, and part of it is you really need to go into a company that you really enjoy. And not everybody can work at the company they want to at the very beginning, but perseverance, you'll get there. What you need to do is you need to learn. You can't just go out and start a sneaker company and say, I'm just going to create these dope kicks. You might create something that has a silhouette that is epic. Who's going to buy it? What's the story behind it? How is it going to get out there? How's it going to get any traction? I mean, for sure, you don't have MJ playing for you, so, I mean, what are you going to do? And I think this whole program, and I can't wait when I come up on campus someday to really sit down and hear what's going on. And because I want to learn what you're doing and everybody there, the direction of the program. And I'd love to give my 2 cents as well. One of the most disappointing things that I had in my career at Soul Collector was Mark Smith asked me to go over to Taiwan with the development team, including him, to do the Jordan 23. I think it was multiple visits for sure. So it was getting pretty dialed in, but they still had a lot of work left to do on it. And I couldn't go. We were working on this issue, and I couldn't go. I should have put everything on hold and went, because you never get that opportunity to really see how all this stuff works. It was like 8 days they were going to be there. And yeah, if I'm going to lose sleep on anything, it's that one there. I know anybody in the SPM group would kill to do that.
Absolutely. Well, we're still hoping to, I know it's a big part of the program, and, we're still kind of monitoring today based off of the current crises and stuff, and the health going on over there. But we are planning, or it's a part of the program. We're hoping to make that trip. So we need to, maybe you can come with us too. But I don't want to speak for anyone. I'd love to open it up if anyone's here. If anybody would like to ask a question, I know we still have a small circle from the university still here, and yeah, feel free to chime in if anybody has any questions. We're basically out of time, but we can hopefully stay on as long as possible to get some questions in. So if anybody has a question, now is a great time. All right. I don't want to like call on people and stuff, but if anyone's here, from our small circle or from any classmates I have, I see some classmates on as well, any professors, any faculty, Steve is here for us.
I always like the question and answers because you never know what they're going to be.
I have a question. I'm a faculty member in the SPM, and but I also am a former Nike employee. And when I worked at Nike, my hobby was Nike ID. I made a lot. At the time I retired from Nike, I had like 60 pairs of Nike ID, which I realized doesn't put me in your league, but it felt respectable to me at the time. So my question is, if you could create any shoe from scratch that you wanted to create, what would it look like? What colors would it be? What midsoles and uppers and outsoles would it draw from? If you could build, and it can be a hybrid of Nike and Adidas or Saucony or whatever else, what shoe would you build if you could build any shoe?
Well, I think I got a good answer for that. Great question. So we went and sat down with Tinker and was talking about doing a project on a shoe that a lot of times when you're designing shoes, you don't have enough time. Like there's a famous story about the Jordan 16 and that mesh and just having big issues, almost not making the deadline, pushing it all the way to the end. And it happens. But the shoe that we talked to Tinker about is the Jordan 11. And there's a prototype of this. So it's not BS. This is real. He talked about that he was actually going to bring the carbon fiber all up the heel. And said that was where the direction I was going. So one of the designers there, he actually made a prototype of that. And the next time we were there, we were starting to work on it. So unfortunately, we weren't able to complete the project, but that would have been a Soul Collector Jordan, absolutely insane project to be able to finish off. Because to me, the Jordan 11 is timeless, and it's such a classy pair. And to know that there was more that was going on that could have been done, just timing ran out. So that would have been, I think, the one. I've tried my hand many times at trying to create a silhouette, and I nothing looks good. So I really have to pull on an expert like Tinker, and I can definitely tweak it. I can do colors. I can do colors for sure.
Thank you.
By the way, did you work with Chris Scheller? Was he there at that time?
I'm a lawyer. I worked in the legal department.
Okay.
Although
okay.
I'm the only lawyer who ever took the Nike training course PS 72 shoe school. But I was the leader of the Nike Global Product Safety Team for a while, and I personally own about 500 pairs of shoes. But
nice.
But mine are mostly running shoes. I mean, I have some basketball shoes, but mine are mostly running shoes because I buy all my shoes to wear. I wear them, and I find running shoes more comfortable to just move around in. But yeah, so right now I'm a total hoe for the Nike Invincible run. I'm a huge supporter of React, and React is a huge supporter of me. And the Nike Invincible run is right now my favorite.
I had a great meeting once, years and years and years ago, with a lawyer at Nike. But let me scratch that. He worked with the lawyers at Nike. I don't know if he was a lawyer or not, but he was the person that worked on all the deals with like Disney and with the Back to the Future stuff. I don't know if you know who I'm talking
Mark
about.
Mark Thomas show.
Unbelievable. He just has this little office, is nothing. And we went in there. I didn't want to leave. The stories he had were absolutely incredible. But
Mark was the first person I ever knew who worked at Nike. I worked at Major League Baseball back in the day when Mark was in the legal department, and Mark and I lawyered Major League Baseball's first license agreement with Nike in about 1980. I want to say 1987. I was on
Wow.
the MLB side, and he was on the Nike side.
That guy was incredible, and there was zero chance I was going to get anything through communications. Nike Communications was not going to allow me to tell those stories, but they were epic. Like people just don't understand what it takes to make those kind of deals happen. It's something else.
Yep.
But thanks for your question.
Thank you.
That was amazing. We got a comment from Elizabeth Brock Jones, and she said there's never enough time, especially when you need to develop Tinker's creations.
I believe that 100%.
Yeah.
You got to think the Back to the Future shoe was years in the making. You know, the one that was actually for sale for the public. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I couldn't put all the photos up. I mean, it would have been just a photo book here today, but I've got a picture from the archives of actually the original Nike Air Mag that was in the movie, but it's the one that has RJ45 that comes out for charging and some control. But that's the kind of stuff they had. Like you walk around the corner and you're like, there's a little penny in a box, or there's this, there's that. It's just absolutely like you could spend a year there and probably not see everything.
Absolutely, a year and then some. If they can let people move in, I'm sure I'd move in there myself. Let's see. Okay, so what are you currently up to today, Steve? How do you spend your time? And how could we learn from you and from your leisure, from selling Soul Collector and things like that?
Well, for a while there, I was sailing, and I'm going to get back on that. COVID kind of sidetracked that some. A lot of those little islands, they don't want their defense is to not have anybody visit. And I totally respect that. So that's kind of on hold. I'm actually working on two projects. One's with my mom. My mom's in her 70s and sharp as a tack. And we're creating this product for the elderly to give them purpose. Like, you get slammed into a nursing home, your life's not over. It shouldn't be over. Like you still want to be able to do something. So we created this whole technology that is it's stunning how good it is, and it really takes a look at of the people's skills and what they like to do, and try to work both their left and their right side of their brain and try to build these synapses so that maybe it slows down any kind of dementia if they end up getting that. So that's really cool. And then I've got another company called Blizzin. That's an app that I'm working on. And I think this app is a $1 billion app. I think it's going to change. It's a social media app and it's going to change everything. So I'm not getting a lot of sleep. There's a lot of work and it's a lot of fun for sure. Business is fun for me. I mean, what else am I going to do? Sit there and drink?
I got you. Well, if you ever need any help, things like that, I'm your guy. I got you.
I like that.
See, sleep is important, Steve. You got to take care of your rest and stuff. And, if you need to charge up, I'll watch your back. But looks like we're basically kind of wrapping up a bit. And if there's any closing words or parting words you'd like to share with us, Steve, now is a great time.
I really like your guys' campus up there. I had the honor to go up there and photograph the equipment manager for the football team and shot the helmets. I had a bunch of duck shoes that Tinker just did for the threes, like this one and then some other ones. And it was just so cool. It was a great vibe. I mean, you go there and you kind of say, man, I want to go back to school. This would be sick. And then you remember all those classes that you were struggling. It's like, screw it. I'll keep doing what I'm doing. But I really appreciate the time and effort of everything you did. Thanks for monitoring this whole thing and everybody at the SPM program. This is definitely a great way for me to convey some of the knowledge I have, and I'm sure some people are probably going to be emailing me and saying, "You really said that?" But hey, it's all fun stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for your time today, Steve. And it looks like Ellen's here. Looks like John's here. If we have any parting words for Steve, I guess we can kind of,
I just want to
give
thank
way.
Marlon. You did an excellent job today. Steve, oh my gosh, I learned a tremendous amount more than what I knew. And I was at Nike all of those years. So your brilliance really shone. We could see your brilliance today, kind of across your years in this industry and really your impact to this industry. And I think that's something that we want to amplify as a program. And we want this dialogue to continue. So please connect with us. Our program is actually in Portland. We decided to put the master's program in Portland because it makes us a part of kind of the bigger mix of the Nike campus, the Adidas campus, Lulu, On Footwear. Everybody's right up there within a 10-mile radius of where we're located in Portland. So you are invited. We'd love to have you as our guest, and please come up and visit us.
Next time I'm in town, I'll do it for sure. And thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it.